Good good afternoon, everybody. I see some folks flowing in here, so that's good. Let's uh let's just give another 30 seconds and then we'll get started. All right, we have our friendly timer here. That always helps us know when we're going to start. So just maybe about 10 seconds left, and then we'll get jumping into the content. All right, here we go. So thanks everybody for joining. Friday, May 8th, just around 12 o'clock, 12:01. This is part 2, episode 7 of our profile and deployment management capabilities within Pulse. Pulse is Red Iron's tool that is powering the next generation of retail observability. And we are also talking in these 2 episodes, the last one and this one, around how we manage deployments and all of the things that are going on the store side from a deployment standpoint and a profile standpoint within your retail environment. So I'm Mike Wilson. I'm the CRO here at Red Iron. We have Jeff Patterson, who's our CTO, who's kind of co-presenting. He's actually going to drive most of this meeting. I'll shut up in a little bit, and we'll get to see the system live and how it works and some real world, kind of examples of how the system works. Just let's quick take us back over, how did we get here? This was a webinar series that started late last year. We've gone through 6 episodes to date. We're going on to episode 7 now. We went through everything from estate management and compliance, how we target observations, how we correlate events, the data side of it, all the platforms that we support, which are, pretty much everything agnostic. Last episode was really part 1 in this 2-part series around deployment, just because it really is a very in-depth topic, and we thought that 30 minutes was not enough to just give it, kind of its own episode. It needed to. Quick plug before we get started. Next Friday, exactly a week from now, same time, is the first webinar series in our series of partner webinars. So this one's with our partner, Cato Networks, who is a SASE/AI observability. I lost my screen, Jeff. Just hold on one second. Okay. Is it back yet? I think, Jeff, when you started sharing, it took mine, so just give me one second.
Sorry.
No, all good. I have to toggle it on. So, okay, here we go. So, yeah, so we're starting a webinar series around, what are the challenges that retailers face, and really having real conversations from what's going on in the field. So there'll be next week is a partner, Cato. We're really excited about that and the offering. And then eventually within that series, we're going to start to bring some retailers on to talk about their problems. So if you're a retailer who wants to participate, please reach out to me. Please reach out to the folks that you talk to from Red Iron, or just info@redirontech.com, and we'll get you. You're certainly more than welcome to sign up to attend, but we'd also love to hear from you too. And you could be, one of the featured panelists within the series. So, okay. So let's get into deployments. It's our little green hexagon here. Each one of these hexagons, for the folks that have been on previous webinars will know that each one of these hexagons is a core capability within Pulse. And we try to tie the webinar episodes really to one-to-one, just to help everybody have it in a place in their brain. This is sometimes the way we think about it internally at Red Iron. So profile and deployment management is green, and that's what we're covering today. On the right-hand side of this slide is how, I think things flow within Pulse. So you'll have an issue, which then trickles up into an observation, and then you start tracking events. How many times did this happen? Where is it happening? And, within these webinars, I always talk about, the shape of an outage, right? So shaping and understanding an outage. And there's really an important tie-in here with the deployment side of it. So when you think about an outage, is it one store or more? Is it regional or global? How many stores are in our help desk queue? Or I think about the board. Is the board flashing and everyone's calling? Are you starting getting Teams messages? So then there's a flow, right? You open a P1, you get on a bridge, and we're always especially in retail, we always talk about it's either has to be the network or the database. Like it can never be the application, which is not necessarily always the truth. But then open a Sev1 with multiple providers. And, in my history, it would always be like, I don't care whose fault it is. Let's get the Sev1 ticket open with everyone because we have to go through a series of events, pulling back logs. And then we're going to get those same questions. What's the last change you made? When did this start? How many stores is it happening? Is it regional? Is it local? So you think about Pulse, and Pulse kind of really makes all those sections go much faster. So when we talk about MTTR and MTTD and those things going quicker, it really is a function of Pulse, of you having all of these data and metrics and logs and all those things kind of right at your fingertips. And, one of the episodes was around how we correlate events without the system and throughout the system. And it could be, our payment log had one thing and our pause error log had another thing and our loyalty log had something else. So correlating them. But today it's really about, okay, now we've kind of isolated. We think we know what's going on. How do we fix it? And then we have to flip a Y to an N in a config file and reboot reboot the software, or reboot the hardware, and then it's going to come up clean. And Jeff has some really good examples that you're going to see about how do we start to stage deployments. One of the things, and I'm just going to go to, this is just a definition slide. If anybody wants it, we could send it out. This was around the definitions of Pulse and the definitions of how we categorize deployments within Pulse. This slide I use really to kind of show there's all these signals coming up into Pulse, and Pulse makes it very easy for the retailer to ingest, standardize these signals, figure out what's happening from any one of these layers here, and then take it into your enterprise data and then drive a business outcome. So when you're driving that business outcome, it might be, I need to do a deployment, I need to do a fix. And it might not be necessarily related to a problem. It might be, hey, we're rolling out a new version of the JDK and I want to start pushing it. So one of the key things that Jeff's going to go over, which is really important to me when I sit in the chair of the retailer, you could have a large deployment that needs to go out to your entire fleet. And you'll have one register or node in that store get that piece of software. So when you think about, let's just say if it's a larger retailer with 10 registers, you don't have to go out to the big I or to your WAN to go get this whole package. Pulse is smart enough to tell you, okay, one register in your store is getting this big piece of software. He or she will get it and then share with friends. And within that large deployment, Jeff's also going to show you, or at least talk about, how it's broken up. So if it's like a 500 meg or a 1 gig, installer, or one, large kind of stream of data, Pulse is smart enough to know, hey, only send it to one because everybody else will need it. So only one has to take it, but then also break it up into chunks. And Jeff, had said it's like 1 meg chunks. So if it's a 500 meg file, you have to do 500 kind of downloads, and for some reason it stops at number 300 right in the middle. Somebody pulls the internet out. So I call them fiber seeking backhoes. Somebody cut a fiber somewhere, power outage. When it resumes, it doesn't have to go restart that entire thing. And you're really being very conscious of the amount of broadband that you're using, because we know, it's a precious commodity, kind of within the store. So that's an important thing to think about. I'm going to kind of jump in and plop in as Jeff gets going here. Jeff, feel free to take over from me now from a sharing standpoint. I'll make sure that your content's visible. But yeah, thanks everybody. Really excited to get into kind of the meat of Pulse and deployments here. So take it away, Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So what I'm going to walk you through is sort of 2 use cases. There still are a whole raft of different ways that the deployment feature can be used and is used by people in the retail space. The 2 I'm going to walk through today are, delivering a new JDK to your nodes, and then updating some configuration files. I chose these just because they're relatable and they exhibit some of the features that makes Pulse especially apt for a retail environment. And as Mike was alluding, the things that we want to do is make sure we're cognizant of the fact that WAN bandwidth is at a premium. So we want to reduce where possible our usage of that. So a couple things that implies. Number one is that, anything that traverses the WAN is compressed. So, we're doing what we can to minimize the payloads, but at the same time, we're also implementing the feature that Mike described, where the first node in a LAN that asks for content, the other nodes will all delegate their request for content to that node, so that we're only pulling it across once. And then the other thing I'll show you now. So I'm going to walk through the first case, which is, I want a new JDK out there. So I've got a deployment that I've used. This is already set up, but it's the deployment I use to distribute new JDK content to my Windows backend. So I'm demonstrating this on a Windows PC, so my node is a Windows node, but this is, again, as Mike said, we're cross-platform, but just for purposes of demonstration, I'm using Windows. So the thing I would do is I would open this up and I'd say, hey, I've got new content. I'm going to choose a file. And in this case, I'm going to choose the JDK MSI. So this is version 25. Previously, I've had version 21. So I'm going to choose this, open it. If you notice, some of the options went away. That's because if all you're doing is distributing MSI, we by default will install that in admin with all the options. If you want something different, you could create your own script to install it. But generally speaking, we try and make this as, just click and push buttons as possible. So we're controlling the distribution of this, making sure it gets there, making sure it runs successfully, and reporting up the response. Also, this activation timing at the bottom. So by default, the activation timing is as soon as you get the content, do the deployment, but you can also choose a date in the future. So this is appropriate if you've got, a lot of content that needs to get out there and I need it to happen at a point in time. What I'd probably do is stage the deployment first and have a future date for the activation to happen. And that way, you can be more certain that the content has reached everybody by the time the triggering date has happened. And you can query back and see, who has finished their fetch phase in their deployment and who has not. And so then I could do an investigation. So if I have some preliminary information about when I want this done, I can track that through the dashboard and see that this is happening. So I've chosen that new content. I'm going to say create version. So a version of a deployment means this is a new version of what I'm sending to the node. So any node that is subscribed to this deployment will get it as soon as I create this version. So this is going to go out to the nodes and they're going to do what is appropriate for this deployment. And then I will have that reported back to me, the success or failure of that. Just before I do that, I'll just quickly go and show you that something is going to change here. Oh, you know what? This is a lot. I'll just find mine. So each node, at any point in time, I can click on the node and it'll tell me all the properties it has. A property is just something about the node that we have discovered and recorded for you. And you can look at any property and understand when it got that value and look into why it got that value. But I just wanted to show you that the JDK version right now on my laptop, blah, 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 that node is me, is 21.0.11. So if I go back here and I create this version, let me put a release note in. This is just a note to myself. It doesn't have any functional implications, but it's just for me to keep track of, what was I doing at the time. So it's just free form for you. So now this is spinning. And so what this is doing is what Mike described. So it's taking that 190 meg MSI file and it's breaking that up into 1 meg chunks that are all going to traverse the network independently and then be reassembled on the client side. So that's just another way that we're trying to make sure that, the content can get there as quickly as possible and with as few retries as possible. Because again, we want to be sensitive to your use of WAN bandwidth. So once that's done, what will happen is the node will be able to see that.
So Jeff, just so I make sure that's right in my brain, let's say it's this JDK update and you're in a 5-register store.
Yep.
One of those registers is going to go say, hi, I need it. And then he or she's going to start downloading in 1 meg chunks. Yep. Everybody else is going to say, stand down. until he
Right.
gets it. Then when he gets it, it's going to go left to right
Yeah,
across
exactly.
the siblings in the store.
Yep, exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly right. And there's not a need for you to designate who the first getter is. So it's not like there's no like master slave relationship. It's just peer to peer in the store. So
Right.
whoever happens to get in first, it's just round robin. So whoever happens. So that we like that just because it sort of distributes. So if you replace, a register one, you're not back at the start. It's the content is distributed. Anyone who then, if you replace a register, anyone who needs it, no one will have it again if a register gets swapped out and it'll rebuild its cache. But generally speaking, we like the idea of sort of spreading the responsibility for that.
So
So
if I
that's,
think about
oh,
a
sorry.
200 meg installer in a 5 register store, it's a gig worth of stuff that has to go around.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
200 meg to one, and then 800 meg
In the LAN,
within
right,
land speed. Okay, got
right.
it.
So now what I got is I've got some reporting back from my deployment. So each deployment has a success and failure reporting. So I had 2 steps here that both succeeded. So I'll go look. And what this does is it'll take me to all the nodes that succeeded. So in this case, there's only the one node. So I'll just look at that and I can see, hey, since midnight, I've had 2. So my fetch succeeded and my deploy succeeded. So if I look at the archive for this, basically we capture everything that happened in that deployment. So this for an installer is, the standard MSI output at full verbosity. But if you are doing your own scripting, we'll capture that and you can trigger events or observations off of whatever happens on your scripting. So we're here to try and provide maximum visibility into the actions that happen during the deployment.
So Jeff, something here. I'm deploying an updated version of the JDK across my whole chain. I'm 1,000 stores and 5,000 registers.
Yep.
Likely, I'm going to pilot it, right? One store, two store,
Yes.
and then that's going to generate a bunch of logs. So what
Yep.
I would do is create an observation around my pilot store, the events that have happened in the deployment in the
Right.
pilot store, and then I could track how this thing's going when I go into next phase of pilot or full rollout.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
we picked a really good example with the JDK, but everybody in the retail world should be thinking about this could be anything. It could
Yeah.
be,
Right.
not just Java. It could be security patching. It could be POS updates. It could be browser update.
Yep.
Anything, could kind of be monitored and instrumented in that way through Pulse.
Right. Yeah, the next one I'm going to demonstrate is just updating some config files. But really, as you said, it could be anything. Whatever content you want to deliver, we deliver the mechanics for that. But in terms of prescription, it's up to you. We do some shortcuts if it's an MSI, if we recognize what it is, and we do some help for you in choosing scripting on file distributions. But yeah, we're not limiting you. All we're just providing a framework into which you can deliver in something hopefully that provides some enhanced success criterion. So I just wanted to just show everyone that now my JDK version is 2503 after that install. So that's a round trip. So we delivered something, then targeted nodes picked it up, they applied it, and then our observation picked up the fact that they had moved their JDK version. So that's sort of just a vision of, think about getting a tighter view on your nodes and having a nice closed circle for deployment stuff. So next one I'll show you is this one, which I just called config files. I'm delivering, beanstore and global config files out. I'm going to, again, choose a file. I don't want to, last week we talked about how the content can be outside of the deployment, but I'm just going to go with what's in here just in interest of getting through the demo quickly. But I've got this zip file and it's basically got 2 property files in it. It's just I created it for demonstration purposes. It's just called log file deployment.zip. It's just got 2 property files. What I am doing, so if I target my destination, so I've got a config directory on my local drive here. Yeah. And so it's got 2 files. They're from May 2nd and, whatever, they're 18 and 6. I want updates to those. And so what I'm going to show you, though, is another feature that we have built into the product to ensure stability on your end nodes. So I've got this little utility that just locks a file. So I'm going to run this. Now I'm going to try and update those files while it's locked. So that's going to fail. And I just wanted to show that the failure is not going to be catastrophic. So this isn't the case where you've got updates where, you're running through a series of steps and step 5 fails and then it's like, oh my, what do I do, right? Because now it's like hard for me to get back to where it was. That's stuff that we provide for you. So if I go back and I'm going to create this deployment. So each of the steps of a deployment are described here. So first thing we do is take a snapshot. Then there's a pre-deployment, a deployment, and a post-deployment script. So deployment is the only necessary step. There has to be something that happens when a deployment happens, but all these, so the snapshot by default is just to snapshot the entire destination, or you can snapshot only the files that are in the distribution at the destination. And then the rollback script just says put it all back. And then there's a pre and post deployment script. Those would be used to like stop services, prepare take a database backup, whatever else you wanted to do before and after a deployment. You could do a little scripting and whatever your scripting language is, if that's, PowerShell or shell scripts on Linux, whatever you want to do, we will execute that for you on behalf of this under, a privileged account. So it can all happen on the node. And what we're trying to do is make sure that this step where we're actually altering the machine state is as likely to be successful as possible and to protect you against any issues that can occur during this deployment. So the deployment can be, just put all these files down, which is our option, or you can execute a script of your authoring. So it's ultimate in flexibility. So what I'll do is I'll create a version and there's no pre-deployment script. So this
And Jeff,
is,
those files are locked right now, right?
yeah, I just locked, yeah.
Okay, got it.
So I'm going to call this in my release notes, this will fail. And the reason it's going to fail is as Mike just alluded, we've got this file, I'm trying to replace it, and I've got this file locker thing running. So it's going to say, it's going to try and put the new content in place. Nothing's going to happen. So these files are not going to swap. It's not even going to put the files in place because we use atomic file replacement. So we're making sure that everything is going to succeed, or we don't even start the deployment thing. So we make sure that we can lock everything that needs to be locked, and then we do the deployment in a single operation, and then we declare the operation successful. So let's just go back and see if I have my observations yet from that. So that basically traveled to the node. Node picked it up, tried to do the deployment. Oh, there we go. And so it's done. So if I go and look here, again, it's just my node. But if I look at the details, I had succeeded on the fetch. Fetch just means I've gathered the content local. I haven't done anything with it. I create a snapshot every time. So by default, we create a snapshot that we can use in the case of a deployment that fails. Then the deployment did fail. So this deployment failed and it tells me why. I mean, it says, I had a process cannot access the file, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, that's bad. I realized that, I've got to do something more. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to create another version of my deployment. But this time I will override the script. So I've got a small script in my deployment called break lock. I'm going to say, do that in the pre-deployment step. So the break lock is just stop process with a name. So that's all it's going to do, but it's going to do that in this critical moment. It's going to take the snapshot, then it's going to call this break lock, and then the deployment's going to succeed when I do it this time. So I'll say create version. This will succeed. And what we'll see is that now that again has been traversing down to the node is picking it up, applying it, and then reporting back the status of that. So if I go and refresh this, we're just going to wait for this count to go up a bit. It takes a minute, it's a all communication is originated from the node. So so there's no inbound communication. So all of this happens on a polling schedule. For demonstration purposes, I've tightened the polling windows way down. They're usually like in the minutes, not in the seconds. But this is in order to facilitate this demonstration. Hmm. This is where I would normally do my juggling act or something.
I think the point is, right, there could be multiple things that go ahead and lock a file, right? And it
Yes,
could
yeah,
be this custom process that you made. It might be some type of updates. It might be your point of sale itself. There could be a whole bunch of reasons why files are alive. A database specifically,
yeah,
um, and that is a key thing to understand, and just one thing, like before you show this part, Red Iron attempts to take as much of the customization and scripting out as possible. We have some predetermined things that we believe, and this platform is built and supported and it's going to continue to grow. We
right.
would love to have not to have a lot of custom scripting to be able to do these deployments. Use as much of Pulse out of the box as you can. And if there are some customizations and scripts, we're very happy for the retailers to do that. But the goal is like save time, make it more efficient, make it reusable, make it all kind of stay together without having to do a whole bunch of customizations, right?
Right. And even when you're taking on the role of script writer, you can use any of our existing mechanics. So we provide, reboot the machine, deploy, do a snapshot and recovery, and we do all that in an efficient way. So all those mechanics are available to you as a script writer. So just reviewing this. So this is our first 4 steps in the deployment at 1222. So there's our deploy failed. Oh, look, so our deploy succeeded this time. So this one, if we look, it just says, oh, sorry. Yeah, the deploy completed. So it just indicates what we did. So if I go back and look at my files, oh, look, they're new. So they've been replaced just now. They're bigger. So the content was either not delivered at all or fully delivered. And that's what this was meant to demonstrate. And I think that takes us to the end of this demonstration period.
Yeah, really, really good. I mean, an exciting, two episode run here. It's like a TV show where it's like the ending is so good it's got to be, or the Harry Potter movies. The book was so good you had to create 2 movies for it. Um, and I think like the whole story, right, is this deployment ties together. There's been a whole bunch of work out there within Red Iron and within our retailers about how do you identify what's happening out there? How do you see what's going on? And a lot of our customers, myself included, would love to take the brute force attack. We have 50 techs and we have 5,000 registers. Everybody go in a shared spreadsheet. You tell me, okay, I fixed. Couldn't fix this one. It was offline. So it's really taking out a lot of that brute force that's required when you're either in rollout or if you're, hopefully not, but having a P1, it makes all that kind of automated, predictable, visible, and you can see all that within your environment versus having to go to a whole bunch of different places to say, oh, we're in the middle of the JDK rollout. Okay, let me write another package to see how many have it. And the package is stale, or I get a whole bunch of data back and I need to grep it or throw it into a database. Pulse takes all that out. So now we're at something's happening that we either know about or we don't know about, or there's something that we want to do, which is an upgrade or a patch or a configuration or a SQL script or whatever. And now you can configure Pulse to do that for you. So I think that's a really important closing the loop, kind of on this retail control tower principle, which is you have all these things, all these signals, everything coming in. Now you need to address them by doing a config update, or hey, you're rolling a new version of your POS, or you're going to enable Omni in a certain amount of stores, or you want to get updated data into your POS to help it, whether it's pricing or promo or SKU files or any of these things. Pulse can push all those things, and now you can know and guarantee success, right? Like that's the biggest piece of it, because it's okay to just say hi, copy, and go. How do I know that everything actually got there, it's in the right state, and what's jacked up and what's not? So typically, I think we take Q&A at this time, but we did run right on to 12:30. So just wanted to say, again, thank you to all the teams that have been part of putting this together. We really appreciate it. Jeff, thank you for all the hard work and demo, and it looks really good to me. So folks that are retailers that are on, send in your questions, register for next week. It's the part of the first series with partners. It's Cato. It's about security and it's about real things that are happening in the field. And be on the lookout for episode 8 within the Pulse webinar series. That'll be coming out to you next week. So have a good Friday.
Right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Al.
everybody. Really appreciate it.